Welcome to the CHCH Newsmakers podcast. I'm your host, Rick Zamperin. If it's making news in Hamilton, Halton, and Niagara, across this great nation or around the world, rest assured we're going to be tackling it right here on Newsmakers. And anyone who has lived in Hamilton for any length of time has enjoyed all the great things that this city has to offer, from its proud history of steel production to being a global leader in healthcare and research and everything in between. And like any major city, Hamilton does have its warts as well, but it also has leaders who are trying to make it a better place. And that brings us to today's guest on Newsmakers, Hamilton Mayor Andrea Horwath, who joins us today. This is like old times.
It is like old times. It's great to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Great to have you here. We're going to get into everything from taxes to tariffs to everything in between. But let's start with maybe a vague or general question. The biggest challenges that this city faces, and I'm sure the list is quite lengthy, but what are some of the key things that you're focused on?
I think that the big pieces are ones that lots of municipalities are facing. So things like the housing crisis, an infrastructure deficit, guns on the streets. So some of those pieces, they're big ones, and we are trying to tackle those in many, many different ways. Also, of course, we have affordability issues in our community. Yeah. So those would be the tough ones. But again, we're finding solutions, and we are working very hard to address those kind of the biggies, if you will.
You mentioned the gun violence, and this is no stranger to Hamilton or any major city. We just had a recent one, in the downtown core. We've had a couple of young women, unfortunately lose their lives because of these incidents. In some instances, it's scary times. What's the city doing in this regard, working with Hamilton Police to make this a safer city?
Well, that's exactly what we're doing. We're working with the police. We're working with community-based organizations and groups. We are putting, of course, a safety summit together, which we'll have some more details of in the coming weeks, sometime this fall, probably late fall. But we're also doing our work with the other orders of government, particularly the provincial government. We were just at something called the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, because, as you said, Rick, other cities are facing the same kinds of challenges. The expansion or the entrenching of the drug trafficking and the drug trade, if you will, here in our city it's everywhere across the country. In fact, the amount of guns on the streets, and so these are things that we need to kind of work with, for example, the Attorney General of the Province of Ontario, the Solicitor General of the Province of Ontario, the Associate Minister of Mental Health and Addictions. And so we had all of those discussions just a couple of weeks ago at AMO, and we're continuing to do that as well, because it has to be a multi-pronged approach, and that's what we're taking. And of course, as you know, the Hamilton Police Service has put together a particular unit focused on guns, which has been, creating some good results. But this thing that happened not too long ago that you're referring to, the 80 shots fired, literally a gun kind of shootout, if you will, in our downtown. And as we know, there's gun crime happening in all parts of our city. Everybody in the city of Hamilton should be able to feel safe no matter where they are in our city. So we're pulling all of the partners together and doing our best, including with the summit, community members as well, bringing in community voices when it comes to how we make our city safer.
Following the AMO conference, and some big topics are being discussed there. You mentioned, whether it's housing and homelessness. Is your takeaway? Are you more optimistic after an event like that, or are you more frustrated because the ball moves slowly? Where's your mindset following a conference like that?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to note that we haven't done a lot of that historically in the city of Hamilton, because I was actually on the other side of those tables often at those meetings as the leader of the opposition or of an opposition party. And so I would be hearing from municipalities around the province or the country at the national forum, but mostly around the province. And we didn't have much of a presence. So that's one of the big changes I brought in, because you can't go it alone, not with these big problems. And so I'm very active with the big city mayors of Ontario. And of course, having those discussions is helpful in many ways, insofar as the collective voice of the big cities with the government of Ontario is extremely important. The acknowledgement, the recognition that these big problems that face cities, as you mentioned off the hop, are problems we can't solve alone.
Right.
So coming out of this particular AMO meeting, it was important to, I think, reinforce some of the messages that we sent last time, and the follow-up is important too. So being able to call, for example, the Minister of Health about our need for more supportive housing, being able to call the Minister of Economic Development Trade about economic opportunities that we want to partner with the province with to bring more jobs and more investment to Hamilton. If you don't start somewhere, you can't have those conversations. And I guess luckily I have some of those connections already. They get reinforced in person at AMO, and then you work the phones like mad. And so I'm doing that follow-up work. Our city staff on the bureaucracy side, if you will, are now very much more engaged than they were in those efforts, because I can talk to a minister or I can talk to the premier, but they have to be making sure, we have to make sure that our staff are also talking to their counterparts in the civil service, right? And so all of those things I think are moving our city forward. We've had some successes. We have some good announcements that are coming about some of our entrenched challenges, if you will. I think we'll get to those later. But if you're not there having the conversations, if you're not there working with others that are facing the same kinds of challenges, then you're going it alone. And these problems are such that we just can't go it alone.
Yeah. Another big challenge, and this is very visible, and that is, homeless encampments, tents being set up in parks, which we know the protocol has come and gone. There was another round of evictions just yesterday at a park in the city. Do we see a light at the end of the tunnel here?
Well, I mean, I think that we would all agree that there are lots of root causes to poverty and homelessness and mental health and addictions challenges. Right. The city is not in a position to be able to provide all of the resources necessary. Like the municipal taxpayer is not in a position to provide all the resources necessary even to deal with some of the root causes. And I know Hamiltonians have said, well, and I've seen various media outlets that have voices of community saying, well, why doesn't the city just do this? Why doesn't the city just do that? We've moved into that space as much as we possibly can, and it's costing Hamiltonians a lot of money on their property taxes. It doesn't belong there. It belongs at the provincial government, many of those resources. So we're doing our best, and that's why we go to places like AMO and have those conversations with the other orders of government. So the root causes they're tough, right? It's about trauma response, so mental health resources. It's about health resources. It's about income support. It's about housing and affordable housing, and yes, social housing, right? So these are things that used to be part of our social fabric, and they've frayed. That fabric has frayed significantly over time, and we have to find a way to figure out the path forward to prevent people from falling into the worst possible circumstances. And everybody has a different path, a different story that they have that led them to where they are. At the end of the day, it's going to take a lot more resources than what we have at the city level. And I'm very hopeful that as we continue to push and partner, that we'll be able to begin to create some resolution. But really, the affordability crisis is also hitting other folks as well. And so a lot of the kind of the wave, if you will, and I hate using that word because it's so impersonal and it's not the best word, but the number of people who ended up in crisis increased significantly post-COVID, right? And so trying to address some of the kind of results or the things that happened post-COVID is not something that can happen overnight.
Right. A glaring example of it, and I think it's a positive example, at least from a result standpoint, is the Barton Tiffany Tiny Homes project, which I know the budget got ballooned, obviously, and that's unfortunate, but people are in a much more stable environment. They're not outside. They're not intense. Is there a timestamp on that? Is there an end kind of date that you're looking to say, we don't need this anymore? Is this something that could be around for a long time?
Well, that's a hard question to answer because it will be reliant on on exactly those things we were just talking about. And yes, I'm glad you raised that issue, because there's a real concern about the budget and where it went, and I am concerned about it as well. What's not often talked about is that the federal government provided some supports, some housing supports for exactly this kind of challenge to deal with encampments. And so about $5 million was utilized for that project. We also had a brownfield there. So if people understand, that's a contaminated land, and we had the opportunity to clean that land up to a certain extent to be able to, and then, put some barriers in between to be able to utilize that for the housing that's there, or for the temporary units that are there. And so question was temporary, how temporary? I wish we could decommission that site today,
right.
But we can't. I mean, on the positive, there are people who are actually finding a path forward out of those units. And so there are people who are working now. There are people who have had their mental health stabilized. There are people who are getting the medical attention they need and getting the meds that they need to be able to begin to look to a future that is not one on the streets or in a tent. We are also working really hard to, on the other side, get some of the actual affordable housing and supportive housing in place, so that there's a place to transition to, whether it's that project or whether it's any of the other partners that provide those kinds of services for people. There are going to be people who are never going to be able to live independently, and that's okay. Right. We can provide the support, and that's why we call it supportive housing. Because we can find ways to support those folks to ensure that they have the best possible quality of life, and with the supports they need to stay stable, to stay housed, and to have a decent future.
I don't want to make this whole conversation about homelessness, but the one last question about it is that there's about 2,000 people who are considered unhoused. Many of them are going from couch to couch, or staying with family or friends. There's about 150 still who are still out in the streets. We have Jamesville and that project finally, starting to move forward. We have, the parking lot in Stony Creek. There was a lot of debate surrounding that, but that's another opportunity going forward. But both of those are going to take years to come to fruition. Do you envision another Barton Tiffany kind of project coming forward to make sure those 150 have a place to stay?
Well, in fact, we have a number of projects underway that are through community partners that are at various stages of development. Okay. And so you're right, these things take time. But we're not starting from ground zero at this point. At this point, we have a number of partners that the city has already provided the first in terms of funding for about 551 units, if I recall, over the next 2 years. That's what I asked for the Minister of Health. I asked Sylvia Jones, the Honourable Sylvia Jones, the Minister of Health, just a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago at AMO, for the funding for the 551 units that will come online in Hamilton over the next 2 years. The Ministry of Health should be providing the supports. Like the cost of supporting those folks belongs with the Ministry of Health. The community provider has cobbled, the providers, there's more than one, have cobbled together the funding to build the structures, etc. But we need the provincial government to provide the services. So 551 units, if we're successful, they'll be built, and the ministry, hopefully, will be providing the supports for those. So, yeah, there's definitely light in the tunnel. And again, there's something I think it's important for Hamiltonians to know. When I came to office as the mayor, there was no plan for housing, even though the housing crisis was already starting to begin, because it was like at the very end of the big COVID, right? COVID's still here, so we can't forget that. But it was just at the tail end of that, and there was nothing in place at the city, no structure, no viable way to actually tackle this growing issue in our community. So we put together a roadmap and a plan, and the council approved that plan, and then put together the structure to implement the plan, which is the Housing Secretariat. So now we have a housing roadmap for investment and sustainability, and we have the structure, the Housing Secretariat, that works with the partners and helps not only the public or the not-for-profit sector sector to partner and build and get the services going, but also helps with the private sector developers who are looking to add affordable units to their projects. And so now we have like an actual place and an actual focus, and the supports the city needs to provide to get things going, and things are going, which is good news.
Yeah. On the housing front, it's a two-way street, right? Like the city has
no pun.
The city has parcels of land that developers purchase, and then it's up to them to build the homes. I know there's been a big debate about development charges and whether or not they should be waived or reduced or whatnot. Is it working better than it has before in terms of developers developing the land that they have instead of sitting on it for a while?
At this point, there's not much going on in terms of housing development, and I would say that the common understanding, regardless of the discussion about development charges, is that right now the market is not conducive to that investment happening. The pro formas that the companies have that are looking to develop doesn't work anymore because of a number of factors, right? Including cost of labor, including cost of supplies, including interest rates, including the tariff situation, which I know we're getting to, which has basically frozen capital. I mean, the uncertainty is massive, and people are not investing. Everyday people are not they're not buying that fridge. They're not buying that new car. They're not looking to move up in the housing market, for example. They're not looking to actually make the plunge to buy their first place because nobody knows what's happening. And here in Hamilton, of course, we're ground zero for a lot of that uncertainty. But that uncertainty exists across Ontario. I mean, the government of Ontario set some housing targets, and they're way out of whack because nothing's happening. Yeah. Now, development charges are a piece of that, for sure, but not the biggest piece by far. Yes, we made some changes at the City of Hamilton, but the worry is that if the governments both don't come to the table to help us with the infrastructure, we can't allow building to happen anyways, because you have to provide what is the infrastructure? It's water, wastewater. We have an old system. We need to upgrade it and expand it just to be able to have the capacity to deal with the flows of new housing developments, for example. We also have issues around roadways, obviously, transit, transportation, recreation, parks. I mean, you can't just put up housing. People need to live in viable, thriving neighborhoods. We don't want to just, put people into neighborhoods that don't have any resources or any, things that make life joyful in their community. So all of these things get paid get paid for through development charges. So they're important. Yes. And they also, although there's this kind of idea that, they're just a big slush fund, I think it's been called in the past. It's not a slush fund. It is proper planning for the future. And that's what municipalities need to do. That's what cities like Hamilton are responsible for doing, planning for the future.
Right. Let's get into tariffs. Is there going to be, and I know budget talks for 2026 are, fast approaching, is there going to be an impact from a city perspective on how tariffs are impacting communities and businesses in the community to what you do at City Hall?
That's always something to have at top of mind. It's you have to look at what's happening in your community and what are the pressures and the factors because those things have to inform your budget outlook. Well, not the outlook. The outlook is pretty static. It's coming, I think, in about a week, and it's just a moment in time picture of where things are right now. But all of those pieces will have to be considered in the development of the 2025-2026 budget. And I say that because you're right. You can't do things without those kinds of factors, and they're big here in Hamilton. And so there's a couple of pieces to it, right? It's not simple. There's all kinds of variables, if you will, and all kinds of issues. And so the tariffs are one in terms of the impact they're having on employment. We just met with, I was just at a summit with the federal minister of internal trade and industry, and she was Chrystia Freeland. She had a summit here in Hamilton. Why? Because steel and aluminum are the underpinning of Canada's economy, and if that's the case, then Hamilton is also the underpinning of Canada's economy.
Yep.
And so the conversations were happening there. Big infrastructure projects coming, great. In Hamilton, there's many companies that are fabricators, right? That are advanced manufacturing, that are using steel that's poured here and elsewhere, but poured here mostly to fabricate other components and things to put across the border, and we know how that works. Things are made here, they go across the border, they're changed, they come back, they might get changed again, they might go back, and the final product might go back 5 or 6 times before it hits the market. That's the problem we're seeing. Those companies, it's no longer viable for them to ship to the States because there's a 50% tariff still. Those companies won't be around to help us with the changing economy that's coming, apparently, with a Buy Canada approach and the infrastructure focus, which I support, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But there's something that we need to do in between to save those companies and those workers. If they don't have the support that they need, if those companies don't stay afloat, then those workers, they're going to be in a very bad financial state. Yeah. So we need to think about that as well.
Given that, do you anticipate, or maybe you've heard through the grapevine, or maybe just have an inkling, that a CERB type of system will be implemented during this unknown tariff time?
I don't know, and I haven't heard. Okay. But what I can tell you is our advocacy from the city's perspective, the council resolution that we passed, included flags for the government that they have to do everything they can to keep the companies going, because workers want to work. Yeah. I mean, we have a history of hardworking people in the city who know how to make things, who have great skills, who have the grit that's necessary to really drive an economy. So we not only need to keep those companies afloat, but we have to remember if they don't float, if some of them do go down, the financial support for those workers is paramount. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that's going to look like, but it needs to be quick, and it needs to be substantial in terms of being able to keep families going, to be able to keep paying mortgages, to be able to keep kids in college and university. All of those things have to be maintained, because those are well-paying jobs. Let's not forget, those are well-paying jobs, and they're great for Hamilton's economy, obviously. So again, what happens then to revenue sources for us as a city if we lose some of the fundamental underpinnings of our economy? Mm-hmm. It's not great. So these thought processes have to go in to our budget in many ways, though, not just in terms of the kind of the on the ground things that we've just talked about, but also in terms of what do we do as a city to try to keep people employed. Right. And that's the balance. Yeah. Like, we have infrastructure projects ourselves. We have things that we have on the books to create. Well, to do infrastructure projects that are in our 10-year capital plan, there might be a desire to kind of pull back on those things, try to save on those things. Those things are financed over time. The DCs, as we talked about, mm-hmm. we need to keep people working as much as we can as a city. I think that's also our obligation, so I'm looking forward to having those debates and discussions at the council table in terms of the budget, because as I said, lots of variables, but we also have to do our part to keep working people on the job.
With all that being said, and with this tariff time in effect, do you anticipate this round of budget negotiations or deliberations at City Hall to maybe be the toughest in a long, long time?
I think it'll be a tough one. There's no doubt about it, because we know that the needs continue to grow, and the environment is quite fraught, as we've just talked about. So it puts a lot of pressure on the discussions and on the council, and so it'll be tough. And of course, we're in a kind of a election cycle. I'm just going to be blunt about it, because mm-hmm. Everybody talks about it, and it's true. We're in an election cycle, so this is the last budget before the next election. I'm hoping that people think carefully and think more about our responsibilities to the people of Hamilton than to our election flyers, frankly.
Right. Let's get into that. You're running for re-election again. You've already made that announcement long ago.
I didn't do it on purpose.
No, not at all.
but it happened, and that's okay. People need to know, right?
And I always, give a big high five to those who run for public office, because it is not an easy job, and it's not something that I would be willing to do, let me tell you. But was there a specific reason that you said, my work here isn't done at City Hall?
I think it's all the reasons we just talked about, really. I have, a track record that started with thoughtfulness and has led into action. And that's what you have to do. You can't just put out fires. You can't just go for the headlines. You have to do the hard work to make impactful changes that will help our city over time. Mm-hmm. And that's, so when you look at things almost immediately, and we might talk about the cyber attack, but outside of that, there were a couple of projects that were really stalled and needed to be moved forward to help our city move forward. One of the first ones was the airport lease that was stalled. The other one, another big one, was the negotiations for the arena project, which was also stalled. And so myself and my team worked very hard with the city staff and the proponents in both cases to get those projects over the finish line. And of course, now we're celebrating the TD Coliseum. We're celebrating the amazing changes that are happening at the airport. Those things don't happen without focus and push and determination. So I was happy to see some of those things happen. You've already raised the Jamesville project. If there's another one, it's that one. Mm-hmm. And that was, I'm happy to say that after a lot of hard work, both City Housing Hamilton, the partners that are involved with that development, the City of Hamilton staff, we've worked hard, the councillor, to find the solutions. A lot of it was like really one-on-ones with the provincial players, with the Minister of Housing. Then there was an election, of course, just not too long ago, and there was a shuffle in terms of ministers. But I'm proud to say both the former Minister Calandra, or pleased to say, I guess is the better word, both the former Minister Calandra and the current Minister Flack have been very collaborative and partnering very well with us to try to get that logjam, broken. Yeah. And I still am very pleased that I believe that we'll see another big announcement. So the bulldozers going in. They're going to tear down that site finally, which is a great thing for the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And then hopefully shortly thereafter, there will be the preparatory work being done for the development to start.
You mentioned the cyber attack. A lot of pain, both from a service standpoint and obviously from a budgetary standpoint. Unfortunately, what are the lessons learned from that event? Well,
there's a couple, and it's really important stuff. This is another thing that I noticed when I arrived. It seemed to be when I arrived a couple of years back. It seemed to be that there were lots of systems and processes that were very old-fashioned, if you will, that were very kind of old school. Let's put it that way. That's the better way to look at it. Old school. And so when you don't make those changes, when you don't change over time, when you don't adapt to a changing environment and you stay the same, everything moves forward and you're a bit stuck. Mm-hmm. You have to make investments for that change to happen. Change doesn't happen without investment, and I think some of those investments were not made as expeditiously as they should have, so it left the city vulnerable. It left the city vulnerable on the tech side. That's the lesson. The big takeaway is that you can't just let things ride. You have to be proactive to have a city that's successful and that's going to be able to be solid when it comes to these kinds of challenges. And so the cyber attack also did another thing, is it opened up a window of opportunity, because a lot of the systems that we had, both tech-wise and otherwise, they're ancient. And so it kind of forced the city now to make those investments and future-proof us at the same time. And I guess that's a I hate to say silver lining because it was such a brutal thing
Right.
and so disruptive. And, we always say, thank you to the residents of Hamilton and the businesses. And I say it again. I mean, things are not perfect still. Like we're still building we're still building our new systems, and that's going to take time. But people have been very, very patient and understanding. And I'm, I am saying straight up, we're not finished. We've got work still to do, but the improvements are going to not only impact the inner workings of the city, but how people can interface with the city, because that's what it's all about. Where the city exists not for some reason other than serving the public. Like that's what the city does, serves the public, whether it's residents, whether it's renters, whether it's businesses, whether it's corporations, whether it's not-for-profits and other partners. We have an amazing city, and we need to serve it better, and that's what this is also going to help us do.
In the weeks following the breaking news of the cyber attack, did other cities, other mayors, other people, representatives from other cities contact you to say, hey, how did that happen? How can we protect ourselves?
Well, yes, it has happened, and there have been other cities who have had similar situations. I think of Stratford particularly, and the former mayor of Stratford is actually in a position provincially that I don't think he's with the government of Ontario, but he's with an organization that is now doing this kind of work to try to help cities, but also institutions to prepare and or to respond. I had a chance to speak to some folks during the AMO conference as well. I happened to be in a kind of a forum, and one of the presenters was talking about exactly this kind of thing, and so I was able to share some of our experiences. But the reality is when these things hit any organization, the advice that you have to take immediately is the advice of the insurance company. And again, that's a sore spot. Yeah. Rightfully so. But the insurance company as well as the police, right? Because it's a criminal act. Like, these cyber criminals are bad guys. And so between the insurance company and the police, that's what guides the path forward. And I know that was frustrating for people. I understand that. It was frustrating for me. There are certain things we couldn't talk about. And at a time when people want to see us talking and engaging more, it was really, really frustrating.
Did it also hurt to a certain extent that, our city got attacked by, these criminals? Oh, yeah.
I mean, one of the things that it showed is that we had vulnerability. And so it was painful for everyone. It was just, it was, I mean, I'm going to say it. You feel kind of embarrassed. It's like, wow, why did we get hit? Well, there's reasons why we get hit. There's reasons why the Toronto Library got hit. There's reasons why, but the challenge that we have writ large is that these folks, like, they're working on it constantly. They're trying to find new ways through the dark web to get into organizations, into their systems, into everything. And we can do everything we can to protect ourselves and to stay on top as much as we can of technology. But you can bet your bottom dollar, no pun, that they're out there mining for vulnerability and changing their, their tools, if you will, their cyber tools to get into places so that they can do damage and hold us up for ransom, right? Which is what happens.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
I cannot not do this interview without asking about Hamilton's favorite acronym, LRT. Are shovels going in the ground anytime soon? We know that this is a project that has been on the books for many, many years. What's the update?
So shovels are already in the ground on the early works. So there's a kind of a two-phase to this project. Our LRT is going right through some of the oldest infrastructure that we have in the city, stuff that's like over 100 years old. And so you can't just put a train on top of that stuff. You have to do all the work underground to ready the track that you lay over top. Having said that, that's actually something that I don't think Hamiltonians are broadly aware of. The cost of replacing that underground infrastructure, like when you think about the downtown right now, even from 3 years ago, there are so many skyscrapers, tall buildings. There's such density that's already coming because of that line. But that infrastructure, those underground pipes, they don't have the capacity to serve that density. And so that all needs to be replaced. And that replacement cost is absolutely being paid through the LRT project by the federal and provincial government. That's a huge savings. We talked about DCs before.
Yeah.
It would take all of the DCs forever to do that kind of investment. I'm maybe exaggerating a tiny bit.
It's a large number, though.
It's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
No kidding. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's happening. So if you got to change the big pipes, also the feeder pipes need to be changed. And so we're doing some of those. They call it early works right now. We're working with the provincial. I just saw the Minister of Transportation, Prabmeet Zakaria, the other day at the summit, and spoke to him once again about the LRT. I talked to the CEO of Metrolinx at that summit as well. And so yes, we're heading there absolutely. It's not with. So there's a process. It starts in a ministry. It goes to another. So it starts Ministry of Transportation, or Ministry of Infrastructure Ontario, goes to Transportation, goes to Metrolinx. There's a whole process. It's now at Metrolinx. It's on the docket. And my job now, and our city's job, and our council's job, is to make sure that timeline for the investment in Hamilton is sooner, the big investment.
Right.
Early works are great, and we're doing them. And you've seen probably, if those folks who have the Spectator will see the lists of pieces, parcels of property that are necessary for this to happen. The other big piece of it is nailing down the affordable housing commitment along that line.
Right.
We don't want to see that opportunity missed. And so, again, we're having those conversations about there is supposed to be a committee put together to have that more in-depth conversation about the affordable housing piece, and we're pushing to get that going too.
I don't recall the year that LRT was officially approved the second time, because I know it was canceled by the Ford government. They reinstituted it. Federal dollars are in, and I think the price tag was $3.4 billion at that time. Is the city? Do you have a fear that the city might be called upon to maybe fill in a gap, because those dollars and today's dollars are going to be different?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. And I say that because the same thing has happened in Ottawa. In fact, in Ottawa, they had already built their next line of their LRT. They have several lines of LRT. So they had just finished building their next line, and they didn't have the 50-50 deal, and they were able to get that 50-50 deal. I think the higher orders of government understand very clearly that this kind of transportation is something that that the local level can't shoulder, and that it's their obligation. If they want to see the rest of the transportation systems work, getting people out of cars, getting cars off of roads, for example, then they have to be there. And it's not dissimilar to other places in the world. I mean, there's very few places in the world where this kind of infrastructure ends up on the local taxpayers' back. It shouldn't be that way. So I'm not worried about it at all. And I also know that we're in that conversation also because of the tariffs. We're in that infrastructure conversation. And what my message to the federal and provincial governments has been, when we talk about big infrastructure projects, let's not forget that we also have big infrastructure at the local level that we need them to put on their rosters.
Absolutely. Strong mayor powers. Have they worked? Should they be fine-tuned? Where do you sit on them?
Well, it's interesting. The Municipal Act has certainly changed quite a bit, and I think there's a lot of trying to figure out what that means and how that works. The changes are really related to two pieces. One is the budget process, which we're all trying to find our feet in terms of how that operates. We've been slowly implementing it. The last budget was, I think, the hardest. The first budget, it was so new that we didn't have it all together, and nor did a lot of other municipalities in terms of how to implement. That was fine-tuned a bit in the last budget process, which was frustrating for everyone, for residents, for councillors, for staff. It was very frustrating. But we've learned a lot through that process, and so that's also going to be how can I say it, informing this budget process. But the other thing that's happening in this budget process is the commitment to more input from the public. And so last year we introduced an online tool for the public to be able to go and figure out exactly what does the budget look like, what does it pay for, how does it work. And this year I'm bringing forward, I'm implementing some community town halls where the staff will be there. They'll be able to run through the budget kind of process, if you will, but most importantly, what does the city budget look like? Many folks don't know that we cannot run a deficit. Like the city of Hamilton, no city in the province of Ontario can run a deficit. It's against the law. Yeah. So, it's kind of explaining some of the underpinnings and the fundamentals. So we're having a number of town halls to help get more engagement and help people understand what's going on. And the other big piece, if I can just finish on that topic, is the housing piece. I mean, really, the push for housing, and we've talked a lot about it, but the need to solve some of the really fundamental challenges we're having in terms of housing availability and accessibility is part of that change to the Municipal Act. And again, you raised the Stony Creek parking lot, finding ways to push forward on opportunities. We know that other orders of government are doing this as well. For example, we just had a big announcement up on Fennel with the Schlegel Villages project. None of that would be possible if the Ontario government didn't declare those lands surplus and then find partners to make the changes happen. And so that's going to include indwell, so supportive housing for people. It's going to include, of course, long-term care. It's going to include residential seniors care, so seniors housing, so that you can, if you move out of your house, you can still live in seniors housing, not necessarily with supports. But then if you need supports, there's going to be long-term care there. It's a whole community. There's going to be rental housing. There's going to be single-family homes. It's a huge swatch of land or swath of land. These are the things we have to do. We have to look carefully at where are there surplus properties in the city, in the province, or that the city owns, that the province owns, that the federal government owns, and make them available for the biggest crisis, other than tariffs, that we're facing, which is the housing crisis. In
a little over a year, we're going to be back at the voting stations, electing a new municipal government. You'll obviously be part of that election, but we won't have electronic voting or online voting. That was a decision that City Council recently made. Other communities do. Why doesn't Hamilton? Where's the reluctance?
Well, from my understanding of the debate at committee, and unfortunately I wasn't able to be there, the vast majority of councillors voted against making the change. And I think that there's still some tentativeness, and some of that comes from the fact that the higher orders of government have not yet gone there, and so they have a lot more infrastructure, if you will, in terms of ability to do analysis around the efficacy or the safety of those kinds of systems, and so they haven't gone there. So that was part of the debate. Another part of the debate was what we've already talked about, was the fact that we've been attacked by a cyber invasion, if you want to call it that, and do we want to? Is now the time? Now the time?
That would make anybody skittish, right?
100% it would, and that's what's happening. There are some councillors, and I think that's why we have a council of different opinions and different perspectives who really think, because other municipalities have done this, including, in fact, the clerk that we now have in Hamilton. The clerks run the elections, right? It's totally arm's length from the council. It's the clerks that run it. The clerk that we have, Clerk Trenum, and his former community, they had done electronic voting, right? And so there were a couple of councillors that said, like, this is the future. Let's go. Let's make it happen. But the majority of people, including myself, decided that, and hearing from what the public was providing in terms of input as well, it's not the right time right now for Hamilton.
It seemed to be a year where city contracts in terms of municipal employees were up. We had a number of protests and work stoppages, I guess you can call it that. Now that we have labor peace at City Hall, is it smooth sailing?
It's always smooth sailing. I mean, you never want to see that happen. You never want to see it get down to a point where there is a work stoppage. But as you know, I'm very, very respectful of the collective bargaining process, and I know why it's in place, and at the city and from the political side at the city, you can't have 15 councillors trying to negotiate a collective agreement. It doesn't happen. The way you do it is the employer, which is the city, the corporation, the bureaucracy, if you will, they bargain with the workers, with their representatives,
right,
which is their bargaining committee. So there's two bargaining committees, they bargain, and eventually the whole point is to come to an agreement, a settlement. If that's not possible, either side can pull the trigger, if you will. It's a terrible analogy, but can say, okay, we're done. We're not going to negotiate anymore. And that's what happened in a couple of instances over the last round of negotiations, if you will. It's painful for everybody, for the residents, for this, the services that people rely on, but also for the workers and their families. It's tough. When those things get settled, bringing people back into the fold, making sure people feel respected, and making sure that their work experience after having come off a picket line is one that's positive. That's also something that we do as a city. So smooth sailing, I hope so. We really, and I believe so, we really do respect, I really do respect the people that provide services to Hamiltonians. I know that my colleagues on council respect them. I know that the bureaucracy, if you will, the civil service in Hamilton respects the frontline workers. They're the ones that make the city tick, the frontline workers. And so I think that labor peace is something that we all will continue to support and to see until we get into, of course, the next round of negotiations. And who knows where that's gonna go. But I can guarantee you that it'll be done in a way that's respectful, that's considerate, and that is most importantly staying in line with the whole purpose of this structure, which is to find a collective agreement. It's called a collective agreement for a reason, right?
November 21st is going to be a big day in Hamilton. Not only is Sir Paul McCartney going to be in Hamilton getting ready for his concert, the concert's at the brand new TD Coliseum. And I know a lot of people are looking forward to not only this concert, but this venue being back, in the city, because it means sports teams are going to be back. Toronto Rock is already committed. It sounds like a hockey team is going to be in that facility, and many more concerts and other events. How excited are you as the mayor of this community to have this facility back?
Oh my goodness, I'm over the moon. And I think that not only because of the things you've talked about, right? I mean, it's so exciting. I mean, it's just so exciting. But this is a facility that we would have never been able to bring life back to in the same way is what's happening now, because we just didn't have the capacity. And so having that partnership that started with HUPEG, and then they, of course, brought in other partners. I think the initial agreement with the master agreement called for about $50 million of investment. And through the partnerships that were able to be put in place, not by us, but by them, over $300 million worth of changes have happened. Now, I'm going to tell you, I was just there a couple of days ago, like literally this week, a couple of days ago, I was there. It blew my socks off.
Really? Yeah.
And it's just people who were in that arena, in that venue, once or many times, you will not recognize it. Wow. You will not recognize it. And having Matty Matheson come with his restaurant, which will be open 24/7, right? I mean, it's not only going to be open during events. The opening of the kind of the facade, if you will, like the shell onto York Boulevard, like you actually can see outside onto York Boulevard at ground level. I mean, it's just, it'll blow your mind. It really will. It's so exciting. And there's no silver bullet, so for the downtown writ large, there's no silver bullet, but this will do a lot in terms of just kind of sparking activity in the downtown. And we have a great downtown already. Yes, it has some challenges, and we have to do some work, and we are doing that work, and we're engaging people in how we do that work. But we have a great restaurant scene. We have really great parts of our downtown where business is thriving, where restaurants are thriving, where new residents are moving in. And what we want to do is create a downtown that not only brings people in from other places, but re-invites Hamiltonians to check out their own downtown. The downtown of any city is its beating heart, and that heart has been, maybe missing the odd beat.
Yeah.
We got to get it running full tilt, and we're absolutely doing that, and it's exciting. And so for all the businesses that are downtown, all the residents that are downtown, we're just going to keep making it better and better for you, as well as for Hamiltonians, as well as for all of the folks that are going to come from other places.
I've heard from a number of business owners and residents who live downtown. They are absolutely stoked that this thing is coming back, and there's going to be events and economic activity, and just the vibe downtown. You can, almost kind of feel it.
Oh yeah, we're a cool city. You wouldn't believe how many people I run into, even when I'm in Toronto or in Ottawa. Oh, I've been to the city of Hamilton. I don't know why people think badly of the city. It's an awesome city.
Yeah.
It's a city with a soul. It's a city with grit, but it's a city that's, that's on the move, and we're on the move not only in terms of the downtown and those pieces, but our economy, notwithstanding some of the things that we talked about, we're getting investment in all kinds of different sectors. We're seeing all kinds of things happening at our business park. We have new leadership at the McMaster Innovation Park. We have an amazing, burgeoning life sciences and biosciences kind of sector that's getting a lot of attention, not just in Ontario and not just in Canada, but internationally. In fact, just a quick aside, I visited McMaster University maybe about a month and a half ago, to celebrate the ribbon cutting of literally the strongest microscope in the world, at McMaster University. And when I started talking to the folks there, and I talked to the one fellow who was doing a lot of the pointing out that this or that, it was massive. I mean, as you can imagine, it was huge. And so I'm asking these questions, and I noticed he had an accent. And I said, afterwards, I said, I noticed you had an accent. Are you, where did you come from to work on the project? He said, I'm going to tell you, I had no idea where Hamilton was. I didn't know anything about McMaster University at all. He said, but I was reading the science journals, and I knew this was something that they were working on here, and I read that, and that's what brought me from France.
Interesting.
Young guy in his maybe late 30s, maybe even early 30s. Sorry, I don't want to. If you're watching, but he said he's here. His family's here. They have a great life. They love Hamilton, and we have a great future here. We've got so many great things happening.
I'm going to transition to that, and this will be our last topic of the day. We started with challenges. We seem to be talking about a lot of the challenges that the city faces, but in terms of opportunities, where do you see the biggest opportunities that the city can take advantage of?
Well, so some of them are exactly what we talked about, some of the groundwork we're laying around the downtown, but we have an amazing infrastructure for investment. And so, as I said, our business parks are growing fantastically, like significantly. We're getting investment, whether it's from things like Omnia Bio, so in that life sciences center sector, the technology. I went to a biotech event where science meets life sciences, right? It was amazing. Anyways, we know that Fusion Pharmaceuticals, which spun out of McMaster, then got sold to AstraZeneca. And that continues to be in our city. We have literally the only actual nuclear reactor that provides isotopes for medical usage, whether it's the current usage we have in terms of cancer treatments, but also research for further medical uses. And so that is something special. And when you look at North America, there aren't very many universities that have that kind of infrastructure. The provincial government has just invested in expansion of the isotope production at McMaster. Those things are they're amazing things. And so we're taking advantage of those things and those partnerships, and other orders of government are noticing, and they're helping us to kind of grow that sector. So that's really great. But think about Hamilton. We have an airport, right? We have the largest, in terms of volume, cargo airport in the whole country. That's what's happening. That's pretty special. We have a deep water port on which we have shipbuilding. Down the road from that, we have a place that makes rail cars. We also have a rail car terminal at the port, which we're trying to get the federal government to give us opportunity to expand that. because we're talking about our Canadian economy, we have an amazing opportunity to be a key linchpin in moving goods, throughout our country, frankly, from where we are. And our highway system is pretty fantastic as well. If we get the terminal, which I'm hoping to do in connection with the Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority, with Ian Hamilton, if we're successful in doing that, it will mean literally thousands of trucks off the highways, which creates some solutions around congestion, but also around environment. And it opens up an amazing economic opportunity for our city. So there are so many great things. I mean, we're at such a prime right now, I think. And when you look at this housing kind of stall, if you will, this investment stall is not going to last forever. So let's not pull out some of the foundations that we're in the process of building, because things change, right? And so let's keep the foundation strong. Let's partner as much as we can, and let's create the groundwork for investment and opportunity.
Certainly a lot of challenges, but lots of opportunities, as we've heard today. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That is Hamilton Mayor Andrea Horwath, and thank you for checking out the Newsmakers podcast, and a big thank you to the all-star cast behind the scenes as well. If you like today's episode, click the thumbs up, hit subscribe, leave a comment as well. You can catch the Newsmakers podcast on chch.com/podcasts and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.